Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible. Good afternoon, welcome to today's edition of The Pulse with me, Elton Brobe. Well, this afternoon, two majority MPs in near exchange of fisticuffs in Parliament with a fight over shadowing business of the House. We are in Parliament to understand why and what can be done to crack the whip on such incidents in Parliament. Meanwhile, rumors about an imminent reshuffle of President Akufo-Addo's ministers grows in Parliament. Also coming up, the new government initiative aimed at building a strong network of highly literate communities across the country. Details when we engage the Director of Strategy and Innovation at the Education Ministry later on the show. And more educated Ghanaian women pushing their childbirth to their 40s, choice or modern day pressure. We speak to the Ghana Statistical Service, which conducted a report as reviewed in the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey. Also in that survey, we find out why there is high fertility rate among women in the Savannah region, but so low in the Greater Accra region. These and more here on The Pulse with me, Elton Brobe. It's a pleasure to be with you. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Digilu, affordable, safe sanitation for all. We are live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV 125. You can follow us on Facebook and on our YouTube channel and around the world at myjoyonline.com. Stay on. Welcome back to the show. My name is Elton Brobe, and Parliament is in session and the drama never stops. Now, there was a near physical between the Asim North Member of Parliament, Kennedy Ohinajapong, and his colleague Botiano, a man from MP, Sylvester Mensah. And this happened on the floor of the House whilst proceeding was happening. It took Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin to take Sylvester Tete out of the chamber, with Sylvester Tete whilst Kennedy Japong returned to his seat. Well, we do understand that the two men have smoked the peace pipe, but their actions definitely disturb the business of the House. We'll be speaking to Dr. Draman on how to prevent future conflict in the House. Right now, though, let's bring in Kwaku Asante, who is a parliamentary correspondent, as he joins us for the very latest on this matter. Kwaku, you're welcome to The Pulse. Right, so we'll bring in Kwaku Asante, who is a parliamentary correspondent this afternoon. At midday, we had the news of some near fights on the floor of Parliament between the Member of Parliament for Asin North and, of course, his colleague also on the MPP side, Botiano English Amanfrom. Let's understand what really happened. And further to that, there's been a development. Kwaku Asante is a parliamentary correspondent and is live with me here on The Pulse. Kwaku, you're welcome.
Yes, Elton, thank you. It was an interesting scene in the House today, and as we broke that news on the midday news, we understand some peace have been made, but we'll get to that shortly. As of now, we've not been able to get a word from either MPs to be able to understand what exactly might have triggered that confrontation in the House today. But in terms of the blow-by-blow account of what exactly happened, you would see that the MP for Botiano English and from Sylvester Tete had come up to the leadership of the House to try and have some conversation with them in terms of what exactly the House business was ongoing. Just when he was exiting the floor of the House, Kennedy Japong was also entering. Kennedy Japong then accosted him right in the middle of the chamber, and there was some exchange of words there. It was a little bit inaudible. We did not understand at the time what exactly that exchange was about. The two MPs had it at a go for almost 10 seconds whilst business was still ongoing on the floor of the House. It was then that the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, sensing that confrontation between the two NPP MPs could degenerate into something else, actually went in between the middle of the two persons. At the time, he did not try at all to try and speak to any of them to try and understand anything. All he wanted to do was to try and at least break the fight that had come between the two majority MPs. So he escorted the Botiano English among from MP, Sylvester Tete, out of the floor of the House, was there with him for a while. We understand he had conversations with him. Then Kennedy Japong came to his seat, came to sit down, sat down for a while. MP for Kaikui Central, Patrick Boama, went to him, had a conversation with him to try and calm him down. He was still a little bit fairly agitated. He was still exchanging words. He was speaking at the top of his voice. We could hear from the press gallery what exactly he was saying, talking about who are you, who do you think you are, you this small boy, that kind of thing. That language that Kennedy Japong will normally use on other colleagues of his. So it went on for a while until he was calmed. He later on got out of the chamber, went to his car, left the chamber, left the presence of Parliament. We understand later on he came in, and as we've been able to confirm now, to sort of have a conversation with the leadership of the House in terms of what exactly might have happened.
All right, Kwaku, so let's understand what may have triggered this near fight that, took place on the floor of Parliament. Now, these are honorable men, and for some, they behave dishonorably. What was the trigger?
Well, Elton, we have not been able to speak to any of the two gentlemen to, in fact, get their official understanding of what might have triggered that. But we've been picking signals. The understanding is that it has to do with some monetary issue, something about debt, and that Kennedy Agyapong feels like Sylvester owes him some amount of money. So they confront him. But, these two persons are not the best of friends. Sylvester did not support Kennedy Agyapong the lead up to then, but presidential primaries and all that. So that is public record. He supported Alan Martin, later on back the vice president, Mahmoud Bawumia. So we understand it has to do with some money issues that he confronted like Sylvester about, demanding that amount of money paid. And Sylvester is said to have retorted that if you say I owe you, then you have to go to court. It's not in the middle of Parliament that you have to come to me and come and demand a certain amount of money from me. And that angered Kennedy Agyapong, who, as we know, is a show person, said that he was not going to have any of that. So that back and forth, that exchange of words between the two MPs nearly brought parliamentary proceedings to a halt, because at the time the MP for Asokwa was on her feet delivering a statement, and that exchange of words were just going on right in the middle there. The thing, although, was that this did not come up for discussion on the floor. The first deputy speaker was presiding. He was clearly seeing what was going on. Did not speak to the microphone in terms of what was happening. No minority or majority MP also spoke in the microphone on the floor of the House in terms of what exactly was happening. So the two MPs had to go at each other. Alexander Penyomaki managed to separate them, walked out Sylvester Tete, as you can see in your video, and then the MP for Assin Central, Kennedy Agyapong, later took his seat. He had some senior NDP MPs come to him to talk to him, and then the situation was calm, at least on the floor of the House.
So basically, because the microphones did not pick the exchanges that took place between Honorable Kennedy Agyapong and his colleague Debotiano Amam from MP, it is safe to assume that it will not be captured on the official record of Parliament. And as far as the official record is concerned, nothing of that nature took place on the floor.
Exactly, Elton. Being a very senior parliamentary reporter like yourself, you know that when it doesn't go on the record, when nobody speaks on the microphone, it is almost as though it didn't happen. And in fact, as far as the official records of Parliament is concerned, that did not happen because nobody has raised it on the floor. Maybe in the coming days, tomorrow or some other day, somebody may be tempted to raise it and then it will be introduced into the record. But as of today, if you pick the vote and proceeding that we brought tomorrow or the official records, it will not be recorded that Kennedy Agyapong and Sylvester Tete, or for that matter, any MP had any altercation on the floor of the House, because this did not go on the record. And so, of course, people have even been raising concern to the public about this disorderly conduct that brings the reputation of Parliament into disrepute, and hence there must be questions at the Privileges Committee to be answered. But as far as this is concerned, this is not something that's going to happen because the official records will not capture this, and nobody has so far raised this issue out there.
Nevertheless, this constitutes misconduct on the part of the MPs. Even when these matters have happened outside the corridors of Parliament, sometimes they have found themselves before the Privileges Committee for some kind of investigation. So I don't know whether the MPs, members of Parliament who were on the floor, whether you've been engaging them and what they make of this, and if anybody is thinking of, alerting the Speaker for some action to be taken on this matter.
Well, I'll tell you, MPs normally take care. In fact, this is something that we expected. I think the NPP and PCN to think about, because there was a gap on the floor. It's an internal matter.
We are losing you. I don't know if you can reposition yourself so we can have a better connection. We are losing you along the line. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
It's better now. So you can proceed on that point.
Right. So, like I was saying, there were a number of NDC MPs on the floor who we thought we're going to at least comment on this matter. None of them are willing to come forward and speak to the record. Of course, some of them are willing to provide you information in terms of what exactly might have happened. but to speak to the record, to talk about what is clearly a disorderly conduct by the members of parliament and whether or not they will be willing to take this up with the Speaker of Parliament for a referral to be made. No one is willing to come forward. Of course, this is not to say that no one may change their mind or other persons who've seen this may decide to take some action on that. But at least the persons we approached so far who were on the floor of the House when this happened, especially on the NDC side, are not even willing to speak to the record on this.
And then further to that, there's been a development on this matter. What can you tell us?
Yes, the majority leadership have really moved in swiftly to deal with this rancor. It was Alexander Afenyo-Markin who broke out the fight between the two. He stood in the middle to prevent these MPs from throwing hands at each other. As soon as the House adjourned, he had cause to call these two men to his office. We were trying as hard to get in there. We were not allowed because of the private meeting that the majority leadership wanted to discuss. So Afenyo-Markin had these two men listening to his office. He spoke to those who were other MPs who were also in this meeting. And the two MPs have spoken to describe the concern, understanding that whatever issue then was in trust, these two MPs are now friends. And this issue is not going to be discussed anymore. Try to reach out to the majority leaders. From some comments at least, try and understand what exactly might have triggered this officially and what it is that they have done. And even as a couple, there's some disciplinary measures taken against these two police. No leadership in the majority side is willing to comment on this. They said this is an internal matter. They have dealt with this. The two MPs have been concerned. We have seen videos of the two MPs sitting in the couch in the deputy majority leader's office, brushing this out. The majority leader himself, has not been in parliament today, but his deputy has stood up to the occasion. Alexander Afenyo-Markin clearly resolving this issue between the two persons. And they say this has been put to bed. These are politicians. Normally comes up different reconcilable differences. They dealt with this, and there's no issue as far as they are concerned.
All right, Kwaku, thank you very much on this call. So basically, as far as this fight is concerned, the matter is done and dusted. The majority side see it fit to bring finality to this matter. But let's stay a little longer in Parliament, because already there's also some uneasiness in the majority side. There's been rumors about a possible ministerial reshuffle that may even affect the leadership of Parliament. You are in a House, and I know that this morning some members are unclear, especially those who are ministers and serving MPs. They are unclear about their fate. Tell us more about this.
Well, Elton, early this week, you broke that news, and in fact, last week also, you broke the news about an impending reshuffle of certain senior ministers. This has also come up quite significantly because this is the first time Parliament is sitting since that news came up, and it's been something that a lot of MPs have been talking about, especially on the minority and majority side. Right. Of course, minority MPs have always said that a reshuffle has been long overdue. The president needs to change his government. The majority and the minority leaders have already made that insistence. But the understanding we've been getting from certain sources within the majority is that certain communication have come that eminent reshuffle is going to come. We expect that, of course, the majority leader may be moved to foreign affairs, and that may mean that the majority leadership, the front bench, would have to be rejected as it were. But in fact, the concern is that every sitting MP who lost his primary or had issues in the primary is going to be changed. So if you are a sitting MP and you were a minister or a deputy minister and you did not win your parliamentary primaries, you are not going to be retained as a minister. Those are some of the concerns that have been shared, and the expectation is that by the end of this week, the president would have written to the Speaker of Parliament communicating the decision to conduct this reshuffle in the House. And so that has been such a big conversation with a lot of sitting MPs who are ministers or deputies who lost out their parliamentary primaries, really, really living in fear that they are going to lose their jobs as either ministers or deputies. There are so many of them. There's the Minister for Gender who lost the parliamentary primaries and all that. So those are the conversations that have come up on the floor.
Yes, I'm going to bring in Dr. Rashid Draman. He's a parliamentary watcher as we explore what took place on the floor this month. But before I let you go, I mean, this matter about cabinet reshuffle is being it's been on the books for a while now. Last week, Friday, we broke it that there had been a meeting at the Jubilee House. The president was getting ready to release a statement over the weekend. It didn't happen out. The information we are picking is that the president is likely to travel out of town tomorrow, and by the time he leaves, he will forward a formal communication to the Speaker of Parliament to announce the reshuffle. Now, this is what we are picking from our sources at the Jubilee House, and of course from people we've spoken to. Indeed, what we have picked is that the president has, in a formal communication, invited those who will be leaving government, and there's been that kind of a conversation. And for that reason, they are aware of what is to come. This is not going to take them by surprise. And the names we are picking, for example, we do understand that the Minister of Interior, Ambrose Dari, will be leaving government. His place will be taken by the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Henry Quarter. We also do understand that the Roads Minister has already formally told the president that he needs to take care of some health issue, and for that reason, he will not be able to continue. And for that reason, there's that kind of understanding. So for the Roads Minister, Kwesi Amoah-Akwata, the Member of Parliament for Atiwa West, he will also be exiting government, but will still be in Parliament as Member of Parliament for Atiwa West. His place, from what we picked, will be taken by the Minister for Works and Housing, a Member of Parliament for Bantama and the Ashanti Region, Francis Asenso Boache. He will be moving from the Works and Housing Ministry to the Roads Ministry. Now, he will be replaced at the Works and Housing Ministry by the Member of Parliament for Ofuasia Yerebia, Minister for Information, Kwadwo Oponkroma, whom we are told will be moving from the Information Ministry to the Works and Housing Ministry. Now, what becomes of the Information Ministry? The information we have picked this afternoon is that the Member of Parliament for Botiano English, Amanfrom, Sylvester Teta, who was at the take of affairs this morning in Parliament, will be heading to the Information Ministry as a substantive minister. I'll be bringing you more names as we progress on the pause. But Kwaku, thank you very much. Let me bring in Dr. Rashid Rahman. Dr. Rahman, it's good to have you here on the pause. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And it's been a while. Let me say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Right. So I mean, you've watched Parliament for years, and we thought we've matured in our parliamentary democracy. So when you see these scenes on the floor, what business is ongoing, two members of Parliament on the same side will get at each other. I mean, how does that make you feel as a parliamentary watcher?
Well, I mean, it makes me feel, Elton, that we are rolling the clock back. This is an institution that is teaching all of us to resolve our differences through the laws that they pass. There is no space in the law for using physical force to resolve any differences. Whatever happens on the floor of the House today is being watched by millions of our compatriots. To see people that we hold in high esteem as honorable members, maybe putting up kind of scenes that people might interpret as not in consonance with their title, honorable, I think becomes quite disturbing.
Mm. So clearly, I do not expect the votes and proceedings of today to capture this incident. Neither do I expect the official report of today to capture this incident, because from what we've been told, the microphone was off, so whatever was said was not said on record. But how do we deal with this going forward? I know there is a new standard order. You worked on it. How do we deal with this matter going forward?
Honestly, Elton, I think Parliament has to sit up, because, I mean, the standing orders before were not fit for purpose. Mm. We have this new one, and I mean, I hope that, the impression that many Ghanaians have of the Privileges Committee, that it is a committee that has failed to do what it ought to do in terms of making sure sanctions are meted out to their own. This new standing orders have, hopefully better provisions that can deal with this, and this is a test case. So let's wait and see. Otherwise, if we keep changing orders and changing the rules, yet we are not able to do what is right to change the situation, Parliament might become a laughing stock.
The deputy majority leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, who got the two men to resolve their differences, say that this is an internal matter and that should end. Should that be the end of this matter?
No, it's not an internal matter. I think they shouldn't trivialize this. There's no way that this is an internal matter, Elton. Mm. These are representatives that we voted for, we hired, to represent us. So, honestly, this is not an internal matter. It's not.
So what do you expect? You expect a member of Parliament to formally draw the Speaker's attention to for some kind of referral to be done on this matter?
Yes, I think so, Elton. Yeah.
But again, how should our members of parliament hold themselves? I mean, this 8th parliament has been one parliament that's recorded so many physical...
It started on this note. I mean, the chewing of the ballot and so on. We don't want it to end on this same note, particularly because they have taken action to do what most speakers have not been able to do, to change the standing order. I mean, let's make sure that this opens a fresh page and starts a beginning for the final stage of this parliament and, I mean, the future legislatures that we are going to see.
All right. Doctor, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this very important matter. And let me stay a little longer in Parliament. And I was telling you about what we have picked regarding this imminent ministerial reshuffle. And it's just not going to be about the ministers of state. What we have picked is that it may extend to the leadership of Parliament, because the rumor has it that the majority leader, member of Parliament for Swami in the Ashanti region, Chairman Sabonso, who would not be coming to the 9th Parliament, the rumor is that he may be moved to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, because the substantive minister has indicated her ambition to occupy the position of the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Organization, and that means that she will have to now concentrate more on campaigning across the world for election to that very high-profile office, and that means that the Foreign Ministry will have to require someone who will dedicate his or her full attention to the running of that ministry. And information are picking it up, the majority leader of Chairman Sabonso will most likely to be named as a new foreign minister. And if that happens, then that vacancy in Parliament will have to be filled. And that is how come the leadership of Parliament will also undergo some kind of a reshuffle. We are picking information that Alexander Afenyo-Markin, a member of Parliament for Futu in the Central Region, may be moved to occupy the position of majority leader in Ghana's Parliament. Now, Lydia Seram Al-Hassan, the deputy whip, we are picking information, has also been nominated as a deputy minister. It's unclear which ministry she will be heading to. The other names we are picking include the member of Parliament for Manshan North. He's also been penciled for a deputy ministerial position. Also, the Dr. Ayu Afriye as a deputy minister for health. And but the current minister of health, for what we are picking, may also leave government, and his position will be taken by the chief executive officer of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Bernard Okoboy, be nominated for the position of health minister. So these are the names we are picking. Hopefully tomorrow that list will come out. There will be formal communication to the Speaker of Parliament, and then we'll do all the analysis that we can do. But let's stay in Parliament, because 17 years after the sale of Western Telesystem, Westel, government is yet to pay the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation over $23 million of its shares held in the company. And the government sold 75% of its shares in the then Celtel International to Westel in 2007 at an amount of $120 million. The telecommunication company was later acquired by Zain Group in 2010. Appearing before the Public Accounts Committee today, management of GNPC review they are yet to receive their share of the sales from government. James Avejib is at the Public Accounts Committee and joins us with details. Now, James, tell us more. It came out that this $23 million is just a portion of a long-term debt the government of Ghana and our agencies owe the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Right, so we are trying to establish contact with our correspondent who is covering the Public Accounts Committee hearing, and the news is that there's been some kind of indebtedness regarding the sale of Westel in the country. Now, it came out that this $23 million is just a portion of long-term debt the government of Ghana and other agencies owe the GNPC. Tell us more about this, James.
Yes, Elton. So that's what the revelation has been today at the Public Account Committee. So the total money owed by the government of Ghana and the other agencies amounted to some $215,777,000 plus US dollars. And this monies, we are told in the Auditor General's report, are monies debts that have been long-standing, some over a decade-old debt owed by the central government as well as the other agencies to the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Now, the breakdown of it is this. The GOG itself owes some 23,217,000 Ghana cedis in 2019. This is 2019 because the Auditor General, officials of the Auditor General who were at the committee explains that in fact, the total amount was captured properly starting from the 2019 Auditor General's report. Now, the detail is that this 23 billion, as you indicated earlier, was the GNPC's share it was holding on behalf of the government of Ghana in Westel at the time. We know that that company was sold and in 2007, and then it was later acquired again by Zain Group. Now, the total share in that company at the time, when the government sold the 75% of its share, amounted to some $120 million. Part of that was supposed $23 million was supposed to be remitted to GNPC at the time. But as we speak, GNPC says that they have not been able to receive this money from government 17 years on when the company was sold to Zain, later became Airtel, and now Airtel Tigo, which is still going to be sold to another company in some months to come. And so that was the issue. Now, the other agencies who were owing the GNPC include the Ministry of Finance itself, which owed the GNPC some $55 million. That money, they paid part, about some $5 million out of it, and the Finance Ministry still owes them some $50 million. The Tema Oil Refinery, one of the companies on the liability books of the government of Ghana, also owes the GNPC some $58 million over time. They have also not been able to pay even $1 out of this $58 million. Another company is the Ghana National Gas Limited, which also owes the GNPC some $78 million. All of this add up to some $215.7 million. Part of that, the Finance Ministry actually paid some $5 million out of that. And so what is outstanding now from the central government as well as the other agencies amount to some $208 million. This is what the chairman of the committee, James Kluchi Abeji, has been advising, if you would like, the GNPC to actually go ahead and force government to take this money. Because if you look at the Auditor General's report, it says that especially in the times when the GNPC is trying to do some oil exploration on behalf of government, this money would go a long way to aid their activities in the exploration activities they are trying to undertake on behalf of government. Elton.
No, so, James, there was also the concern over a $29.5 million disbursement from the Petroleum Holding Fund. How did the GNPC explain this payment to the committee?
Exactly, Elton. So these monies, from the explanation from the GNPC, are actually the cost incurred by the GNPC when government decided to abrogate the take-or-pay agreement with the power producers. You remember that starting from 2021-2022, government started renegotiations with the power producers to actually abrogate the take-or-pay agreement that have been entered with most of the independent power producers because of the cost that it comes with. Now, in the Auditor General's report, they indicated that between 2021-2022, the GNPC actually did what they captured as some unclassified disbursement from the Petroleum Holding Fund. Now, the explanation from the GNPC is that at the time government decided to abrogate this take-or-pay contract, most of the power generators had already incurred the cost of this power production. And so, per the agreement, they cannot refuse to pay this money. And so, they paid this $29 million to 3 separate companies, including the Jubilee Crude Revenue, which was paid some $11.8 million. 10 Crude also was paid some $10.5 million. And then Sankofa also was paid some $7.27 million. All of this totaling the $29.5 million the GNPC had paid to these 3 generators. It brought some concern actually from the chairman of the committee, who complained about the fact that this is new to him, because he thought that when this take-or-pay was abrogated, there was no cost actually from it. In fact, he said that when you monitor government communication on this issue, there was no picture painted about any form of cost to government, but rather to redeem revenue government pays to these companies without power being used. And so he complained about this, and the indication from GNPC is that moving forward, this issue have been completely resolved. And so apart from this $29 million, they haven't paid any money resulting from this take-or-pay contract abrogation, Elton.
And then also, one of the big elephants was also in the room, the Electricity Company of Ghana. And they've also been explaining why they made so much, like over $1 billion Ghana cedis. How did they justify it?
Yes, Elton. So this money was actually a contract they had entered with various companies. Now, the Auditor General's report indicated that this contract they entered with the various companies, these companies they entered the contract with were not VAT-paying companies, or as part of the contract, they didn't remit the total of 275,000 Ghana cedis as VAT to the Ghana Revenue Authority. Now, the explanation of in fact, the recommendation from the Auditor General's department was that this cannot happen. First was the fact that if they want to go into contract, first is to make sure that these companies are VAT-paying companies before they go into it per the PPA arrangement. And so the violation of this cannot be justified. The recommendation is that they go back to all of these companies and get VAT receipt of totaling the 275,000 Ghana cedis and pay same to the account of the Ghana Revenue Authority of this contract undertaken between 2021 and 2022. Now, as we speak, as the ECG appeared before the committee today, they indicated that they have so far been unsuccessful in getting the companies to remit these monies to the GRA, but they gave the indication that they are still progressing in getting them to do so. The chairman of the company was of the view of the Public Accounts Committee was of the view that this cannot be the case, and so the managers of the ECG, led by the managing director Samuel Dubik Mahama, take steps to get the companies to pay the money to GRA within 2 weeks. If in 2 weeks they are not able to resolve this issue, the managing director as well as the finance officer of ECG at the headquarters would have to pay this money from their individual pocket. Another infraction was coming from the Volta regional headquarters of the ECG, where they made some petty payments that was not covered with payment vouchers amounting to some 62,000 Ghana cedis. The Public Accounts Committee also directed that either, in accordance with the Auditor General's recommendation, either they get payment vouchers to support this expenditure in 2 weeks, or the ECG also pays him, putting the two together amounting to some over 300,000 Ghana cedis. And so that's what the ECG may be paying in 2 weeks if they fail to, one, get VAT justification and paying same to the pocket of the GRA, or get payment vouchers to support the Volta regional expenditure of some 62,000 Ghana cedis.
Right, James, before I let you go, obviously, I'm sure some public interest questions came up. What are some of them?
Exactly, and those were some lighter notes on the committee. For instance, the CEO of the Honorable Kofi Djamesi, who is the CEO of one of the agencies, appears to be more than 64 years. You remember the issue about the chief director of the Ghana Revenue Authority last 2 weeks when he appeared before the committee. There were concerns about his age, he's overage by working without contract and all of that. Yes, Honorable Kofi Djamesi accepted that he is currently 64 years old, and there was a question as to whether he's working on contract or not, and he actually admitted that he has a contract with the government, which should be expiring in 2025 September. And the committee actually makes some lighter moment out of that. There was also the issue about the Ghana Gas Company, which the committee picked up that they are in due process to be acquired by the National Gas Company, because the cylinder manufacturing company actually, and there were questions as to why they had to be swallowed by the Ghana Gas Company just few weeks after they were established to undertake the cylinder recirculation module, which is finding it very difficult to actually be productive in these few weeks. The chairman raised questions about some over 1 million Ghana. In fact, he says millions of cedis of procurement, of sole source procurement, that came out last year under the Chief Director, Frances Essien, which was referred to the Attorney General for prosecution. He asked whether anything has been done about that. They said no, the Attorney General hasn't taken any step to prosecute the former Chief Director, Frances Essien. The chairman actually blamed Parliament for not taking up. In fact, the committee, the team that was supposed to refer this issue to the Attorney General for not doing their work, but promised to take that up in the interest of the public for all of these things to be regularized, or those who will be found guilty to pay the monies to the government, or stand some prosecution in that instance. So those were a few public interest questions with regards to the age of Honorable Kofi Djamesi and the issue about Frances Essien, who was the former DG of the Ghana Gas Cylinder Recirculation Company.
Right, thank you very much, James Aveji, from the Public Accounts Committee sitting in Parliament. They are looking at the audited accounts of the Auditor General, and in subsequent bulletins we'll have more to talk about on this matter. But let's say a little longer on matters relating to electricity, because the ECG has attributed recent power cuts in the Ashanti region to what it terms the restoration of redundancy in power distribution. Parts of the region have in the past few days experienced intermittent power outages, with some areas plunged into darkness for nearly 12 hours. This situation is adversely impacting on some businesses and livelihoods. But Ashanti Region South Business Unit of ECG is assuring the country is not back to the heavy load shedding. Nanaya Abuachi Yadom has more in the following report.
Since Friday, major parts of the Ashanti region, especially the regional capital, Kumasi, have been experiencing intermittent power cuts. The development over the weekend left some residents perturbed. Some residents who spoke to Joy News expressed their worry about the intermittent power cuts and its impact on their businesses.
It has been worse. It has been worse for me, especially my work, because I do put my things in the fridge before I realize it will get spoiled. So the doing so is not easy for us these days, especially those who are sowing the same choices. They are also suffering a lot. My fish, my sausage, my stew, and my vegetables, because the heat, they cannot contain it. Especially this month, it has been worse. The whole of this week, it's continuous. Even this pastor who is preaching over there, since last week, has not been able to preach because of light out. He will come and go back. He will be here about 5:30. Then he will not be able to preach. He will pack his speakers and go out.
Basa na ejina basa because kanen na area bibia. They say when now so bona you do light. And no say me say nka me yi matare meto.
The recent power cuts has been affecting my business. I could not even open my shop due to the power cuts yesterday. Government must do something about this.
Na eya we nti na me okaka no yadwumem say no say yadwumem membie na ohwe wa hanta mentime mgedman mentime transe nti dumson de ha kakra
93 days me ne me mani nyina sam fom e wa abonte na tontomo wiyen omudum light 12 o'clock 93 days o man so amade a chenwe.
3 days ago, I slept without light. My children and I slept outside our house. The issue is worrying. We do not know why we have to sleep in darkness without any notice. Government must sit up.
But the
Ashanti South ECG General Manager, Engineer Frederick Kwabena-Bediakon, says the issues are internal and not from Gridco or their power generators.
But then again, we would also want to disabuse everybody's minds of the fact that these are not issues that are coming from either Gridco or any generational shortfall. These are internal ECG issues that are duly being responded to. You may not have received a statement from us, primarily because as engineers, we sometimes want to solve the problem first before we go out there talking, because it's our responsibility. Because in the heat of the moment, the main thing is that you have to restore power to your cherished customers or manage the situation that you find yourself.
The company says it is putting in place measures to ensure stable electricity. However, it will take time.
You know, so it was quite an unpleasant situation for us, managing a situation like that. But cable faults do happen. There are ambient conditions that may happen, even heat, because they are buried in the ground. Even heat can cause all of these things. Ingress of moisture can, affect that. And most of these cables also have had some joints that haven't already been prepared some time past that could also affect in the event that now the temperature is quite high. The temperature is quite high, and it means that there's a lot of cooling effect from our ACs and all that. It means power consumption or the capacity has also gone up. All of these things can cause a lot of damages within the system. So he would continue with that. We may come back to the way forward and all that, and we'll see how best we can attempt to solve the situation.
For Joe News, Nana Boache Dankwa Yadom, Kumasi.
This is the pause with me, Elton Brobe. Now let's move to some other stories now. And government has launched a new initiative aimed at building a strong network of highly literate communities across the country, where no child is left behind and every citizen is empowered to make a meaningful contribution to the socio-economic transformation of the country. Shortly, I have an official of the ministry in the studio to help us get a better understanding of this initiative. Right now, though, a report capturing the launch in Mamfe in the Eastern region.
Dr. Yao Ose Dichum at Mamfe in the Kuapem South District of the Eastern region. The SEP program would ensure that 90% of basic 4 pupils aged 10 attain foundational competencies in literacy, numeracy, and social-emotional development. It will also ensure that at least 90% of junior high school students pass and transition into senior high school, while 90% of senior high school students pass and transition into tertiary. Education Minister Dr. Yawose Educhum explained that under the program, chiefs would play a critical role in ensuring improvement in learning outcomes by providing accommodation and other support for teachers and education providers.
The World Bank have something called learning poverty. They measure proficiency of students in reading by age 10, which coincides with primary 4. Around the world, various countries are struggling. About 87% of children in developing countries cannot read. We want to make sure that every child will read in Ghana by primary 4. So we have begun the process of supporting teachers, bringing in literacy coaches. The goal of this project is to ensure that 90% of our children by primary 4 will be able to read.
Right, so Aaron Chuma Kwabwa, Director of Strategy and Innovation and also Technical Advisor to the Education Minister, is here to share more light on this very important matter. Aaron, you're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So it's Communities of Excellence.
Yes, please.
What is this about?
What is it about? So I will start with the why, the rationale.
Right.
And as you heard my able minister, the Honorable Dr. Yawose Educhum mentioned, that we have a crisis of literacy across the world. The World Bank says developing countries like Ghana are at about 87% learning poverty, meaning that young men and women cannot read by the age of 10 or class 4. If you compare that to the whole world average is 53%. So developing world's behind, Ghana's behind. With that being said, if you see a problem, you must go out there and do something major to attempt to fix it. And so our thinking process is this: why not focus in on literacy? Because the ability to read and understand is what's going to allow you to do all other subjects, number one. Number two, we're looking at the old adage, it takes a village to raise a child. So we're using our villages and our communities to teach our children to read and to focus in from the community level so that the children can see education as something that's part of what they do, and that the schools and communities will work in partnership as they used to do in the past. Looks like you want to ask another question.
Yeah, because I want to find out why the reading habit has become a challenge.
So I think it's probably it's always been, right? And so in fact, if we look at some data, we have some data from something called the EGRA, Early Grade Reading Assessment from 2015. And I was appalled when I looked at that data where it said that only about less than 5% of Ghanaian students in class 2 can read and write.
Less than 5%?
That's 2015, EGRA. So we always have this challenge. And so we're using data to uncover our challenges to do something about it, because we can always talk about, we have all these graduates, we have all these people in Ghana and Ghanaians across the world who are doing wonderful things in education, which is true, but the core Ghanaian student was struggling to read. And so I just want to say one more point about the data.
Right.
So when you look at the comparison of EGRA in 2015, under 5%, and then you look at the English proficiency rate of class 2 students on the NST 2021, which was 54%. There's been a huge growth.
Right.
In those last 6 or 7 years, so that we have been seeing the issues with our literacy, and we're attacking it in different ways, and this is one of the wonderful programs to really bring that out.
So this is not only a Ghana problem.
It's a worldwide problem. Literacy across the board is a worldwide problem, and also literacy in things like STEM and AI and all the other computer-based literacies that we're looking at, because it's not just I can read the book now. It is I can do something on that computer and I have access and I can understand, I can learn. And so if we don't catch up now, we may be another 100 years behind. And so that's why we're doing what the minister calls leapfrogging strategies and innovative and new things. We cannot do the same things we were doing if we want different and better results.
So what are the set goals for this initiative?
Okay, so what we do is we have something called the 90-90-90 strategy.
What does it mean?
Perfect. So at the first stage, we want to hit that World Bank threshold. At age 10 or class 4, 90% of any given set of students in a community can read and write, right, at grade level. Then the next 90 means that we're going to have that next group will be able to go from JSS to SHS, which is going to be leveraging our free secondary school system.
So first step, the expectation is that you want to have 90% of people who currently are unable to read
to be able to read by age 10, class 4. Second step is that those young men and women, 90% of them will then be able to transition from JSS to SHS. And then the last 90% of them will be able to go from SHS through to tertiary. Now, those of you who are mathematicians will say, Akwabwa, that's not 100%. That's actually 72%.
Exactly.
Because I started 100 students, 90, 81, 72. Why is 72 significant? 72 is significant because currently we have 20% as our gross tertiary enrollment, meaning 20% of people who should be in university are in university. If we can go to 72, we would be more than triple the number, and we are already at 20, one of the highest in West Africa. We could become one of the highest in the world.
Is this only targeting public schools, or every school is targeted under this initiative?
So the initiative, the first phase, we were lucky enough to get cabinet approval in 2022. We've been late 2022, we've been writing the program and going through the process, and it is set to do the initiative in public schools for this particular phase, so that we can do the proof of concept, so we can roll it out completely. So this current scope is that we're in 41 of the 261 districts of the country. We are working with 700 plus communities and 700 plus schools and 500 communities. And so
across the country.
Across the country. The great thing is that we are in every single region. And what we did is that we created 6 focus regions, and those were the regions based on the NST. We just used data. We said, where are the places where we either have very huge populations like Asante and Greater Accra, which is 1/3 of Ghana's population with those two, or where are the places where the scores for the NST are not moving the way we want them to move. So we put a little extra focus there, but every single region has multiple districts and multiple schools within the program. No one in Ghana is going to be cut short out of this process.
So this is a Ministry of Education program. The implementation agency is purely
yes, that's a wonderful question. So Ministry of Education is not an implementing agency. Those of us at this level, we are policy people. I write policy, we write policy, and then we have our implementers in our agencies. So the great thing is that we're in deep and complete partnership with GES. GES runs our public school system and does that portion for us. In addition to that, we have NACA. NACA is our curriculum base. So when we are talking about curriculum and doing those things to support reading, they're there. NTC is supporting us with teacher training. We have NACIA, who will do the inspection to ensure, they're the regulator, to make sure that GES is doing the right thing, that MOE is supporting them. And then perhaps even most importantly, at least within the ministry and the agencies, we have complementary education agency. So we bring out of school children and adult learners into the process.
And I just want to understand that before starting this, you've done your own homework, you've identified the challenges, and then you have solutions to fix them. So the root cause, and how will you be able to address it, such that maybe next year when we meet by this time, the percentage of the reading habit would have gone up?
So so let's do a couple of them. One of the biggest issues is making sure that there's a much time on task to literacy. We have a very spread out curriculum, even at the primary level. You have a student telling you they're doing 12 classes. But if that student can't read, how then can they use the book to do the technical drawing and the rest?
Right.
And so in places that this has worked, like Obuasi East, we have changed the timetable to ensure that there's more time spent on literacy. They've done literacy initiatives like 100 Days of Reading, where they will change the timetable and even do after school.
And this was during the pilot?
No, for Obuasi, this was on their own. There's some other places that have done it. So there's some schools, so like when you said, like, have we done our homework?
Right.
We've watched what districts have been doing on their own initiative. We say, this is working. So we brought those people to be almost like the technical advisors to ensure that as we do the program, we can see it. So time on task is a huge thing. And then, like we saw in the video, it's about the community. You see, I know that in my parents' time, and maybe your parents' time too, if your family went to the farm, they would cut some bordier or something like that for your teacher.
Of course.
They were taking care of your teacher, so your teacher would take care of you and spend extra time. Anytime there was any kind of support that was needed, your teacher received it also. And your teacher was so much a part of the family that if they had to chastise you in any way, it wasn't that it's that this person's trying to support me. So that connection with community, family, even religious leaders. So this program has the chiefs involved. Nananum, we have our queen mothers, we have our imams, we have our Christian religious leaders, we have our traditional religious leaders. All of those people are involved. So those are the two things: time on task and really giving direct intervention, and then bringing the community in to give students a feeling that everywhere you're going to be surrounded by that literacy, and it doesn't go away.
Right, great. But again, the teacher is at the center of this.
Yes.
So you've already trained them, or you have special teachers for this?
So that's the great part. So we're leveraging things like our PLCs, our professional learning communities. So if you're doing a professional learning community on right now, let's say on action reading or whatever it is, that is already happening. So we're going to leverage the training that's happening. And as I said earlier, NTC was their job. They train teachers.
Right.
And so we're doing the training to the level of everyone involved. Like we said, all the community members. We're also training at the district level, and we're training at the teacher level. And another one of our partners is NSS. So NSS is coming in.
That's National Service Secretariat.
National Service Secretariat is coming in with, people say, I'm doing NSS and I'm teaching. But now we're actually even giving some of our teachers teaching assistants who are NSS. So that in that room of 45 students, there'll be 2 adults, one fully trained, one who's learning, to even give them more time and energy. So the teachers are being trained. The district heads are being trained. PROs came to a training and with us just last week. Even the training officers are being trained, so we're training the trainers.
So in terms of getting the best possible outcomes, has this been integrated into the curriculum, or there will be special days for this exercise?
So that's the great part about this, is that we're working with NACA. And so as we work with NACA and working with GES, we're going to put all these things into the timetable. And so we need to do the pilot study. That is why it's not rolling out in 30,000 schools all around Ghana. We are still making sure that as we integrate these pieces, what will work best, what would need to be changed. And so it's like any other type of thing, we're doing the proof of concept. But what I will say is this: even at the launch, things are looking very, very positive.
Right.
I've been back in Ghana for 2.5 years, and I haven't seen an event with so much community engagement where the chiefs are saying, anything you want, I will do, right? And so now they're making commitments of providing us with housing for teachers, perhaps, or other things that are actually going to lead to those outcomes. But like you said, it's about finding out how we fully integrate this system, and so that it isn't just a program, but it becomes part of everything we do. And so lastly, we use things like Jolly Phonics and all the other systems that are in place. I know what you're afraid of and what Ghana's afraid of.
Right.
When you're bringing something new, you're going to remove something. No, we're just adding a little piece to it, right? You have the soup and you need a little bit more spice. This is just the spice. We're not going to make you go eat rice instead of having
to make it
soup.
better.
Exactly.
So I mean, let's look at it. So this, as you roll out this plan, not every school will benefit. Not every school, at least for now.
Yes, please.
So across the country, how many schools are we looking at?
So across the country right now, my scope tells me that we are in 700 plus schools.
700 plus schools?
Yes.
In all the 16 regions of the country?
Yeah, in total, yes.
And how was the selection done?
The selection was done. In fact, we did applications, and everyone told us it wouldn't work. How can you make people apply? How can you make people apply?
The schools themselves?
Yeah, the districts, they're like, they don't apply.
Yeah.
But we applied by district, 261 districts. You know how many applied?
No.
257.
Almost all the districts applied.
And do you know how many applications we received?
No.
You would think 257, right? But we had a cluster system. We received over 800 applications.
So the participation was great.
Everyone wanted to be a part of it. And I was shocked that people applied. So we took in the applications, and then we had our GES people, we had everyone look over, and we gave them surveys. We gave them almost like an exam for it. And we went over it. And if you met the criteria, you met the criteria. We selected you. And then if you did not meet the initial criteria, we would so if you were green, you made it fine. If you were amber, we knew what we were doing. If you were yellow, we knew what we were doing and how to support you in that process, right? And so we initially selected over 2,500. And then we looked and said, if we do 2,500, and we spread
2,500 means
2,500, right?
He's from America, so I understand him.
If we spread it too far, right? If we spread it too thin, everyone won't get the gist. They won't get enough.
Right.
So then we went down to 1,005, and then we broke it down even less. And we said, let's do the 500. But there's so many communities that are ready for this, that need this. And we gave priority to those communities again and those districts that have struggled on NST. It's like, we are not going to say because you did a beautiful application, you did everything wonderful, you immediately did it. You know what we did? We asked them for pictures. And you know another thing we did? We didn't go in blind. We wanted the chiefs engaged, right? So we actually took thumbprints and signature of every chief of every community. And if your chief did not sign, if your district assembly person did not sign, if your MP did not come in and do some sort of endorsement, we didn't even let you turn the application in. We wanted it to be holistic.
But again, it also then the next question will be the advantage the beneficiary schools and students will have as against those who did not qualify. What is the plan to make it a comprehensive goal?
That's the whole point. The whole point is to do this well enough to receive funding, obviously, and in the budget through GOG, and then also more funding through our development partners. This program is actually being set up by one of our development partners that's been supporting us for the last several years, Big Win Philanthropy, right? And so as a development partner in this, we cannot go to them and say, give us $1 billion. We can tell them, give us this amount so we can prove to you, so we can get more from you and from others. And I don't want us to think of it as, well, this 500, this 1,000, this 800 got it, and I did not receive anything. We are still giving the baseline of education in Ghana is still rising. The tide is still rising and is being consistent at that level, and we must do something. So what we need to be happy about is there is a program that is going to support. There's a program that the application process was transparent. There was a program that it wasn't politically motivated.
Right.
And it's a program that will lead to getting all of us engaged in this so that within the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years, we will have this as part of what we do forever. There are many things happening in the education system right now that were piloted as a small level and now are holistically engaged. Sure. You have to give us the opportunity to do the pilots so that we can be holistic. Otherwise, no one jumps directly into it.
Right. Before I let you go,
yes,
so
please.
What will be the end game and your expectation, let's say after 2 years?
2 years. So 2 years is very simple. 2 years, our people in class 2 will go from this 54%, right, to that 90% we discussed, because they'll be in class 4. So if we're going short term, we know that our first group of people that we'll be testing are our current class 2 people. So yeah, they will be at that 90. In this set of schools, in this set of communities, we're putting forth that effort, and they will meet that initial goal for 2 years. But I want us to not do the short-term 2-year goal. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years.
So
when you, where's your hometown, if you don't mind me asking?
I come from Nsuta in the Ashanti region.
Wonderful. I'm from Equianse, Eastern Region, Brim North, represent. So when I go to Equianse right now, I don't see a group, a large group of literate, engaged young men and women between 25 and 40. In the next 15 years, the goal is that all of us who left Equianse for greener pastures because there's nothing in Equianse would have gotten our literacy, gotten our SHS, have gotten our tertiary degrees, and have come back and built Equianse that what? That bank, built Equianse that new hospital, have put roots there, and to make these places, thriving places, communities, to thrive again so that we don't run off to Kumasi, Accra, Ho, Cape Coast, Tamale. So that is what I'm saying, that the community itself will reap the benefits of their own children, right? Because you're working and supporting these young men and women in your community so they stay there, support you. And if they leave, they will remit, whether in kind, in finances, or with their education.
All right, thank you very much, Aaron. And we wish you the very best as you roll out this reading, or I should still have the reading habit in the Ghanaian.
Please,
and hopefully maybe in the next year or two, we'll come here and do evaluation of the work done so far.
Please, I cannot wait. 2 years from now, we're going to get these numbers.
Right. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right. So Aaron Chum Akwabwa is Director of Strategy, Innovation, and also Technical Advisor to the Education Minister. The project is Communities of Excellence, and the idea is to encourage people to read more. And they have set themselves a very exciting target, and is giving himself short to medium to long-term goal And the idea is that we're going to have 100%, reading sort of percentage in terms of people who take advantage of this program. Thank you so much for coming. Right, so let's stay a little longer on education, because more educated Ghanaian women are pushing their childbirth to their 40s. Choice or boarding day pressure. We'll find out more after the break. This is The Pulse here on Joy News. We are back on The Pulse. This is Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible. Now, more educated Ghanaian women are pushing their childbirth to their 40s. That's according to the Ghana Statistical Service in the Ghana Demography and Health Survey. Also in that survey, we found out why there is high fertility rate among women in the Savannah region especially. Now, on your screens are key findings in that report teased out by our research team. So this is the fertility rate in Ghana. So as at 1988, the average mother was having 6.4 kids. Now, take it down to 2022, that's reduced from 6.4 to 3.9. From 6.4 in 1998, the fertility rate in Ghana, how many people were having babies, is as reduced from 6.4 in 1998 to 3.9 in 2022. And so these are the findings, some of the findings that came up today when the Ghana Statistical Service, brought to the fore the outcome of their research. But there's also fertility rate in Ghana, regional breakdown. So as you can see, the Northeast 6.6, Savannah 5.8, the Northern region 5.6. It goes all the way down to the Upper East region 4.6. And again, the Greater Accra region came last at 2.9. So what sense can we make out of this? And let me bring in the Deputy Government Statistician, Dr. Faustina Frimpong Angwa, to break it down for us and to make meaning out of the research findings that the Ghana Statistical Service put out today. Dr. Frimpong Angwa, thank you very much for joining us here on The Pulse.
Thank you for having me.
Right, and you are from Savannah, and your region featured prominently in the outcome. So first, let me ask you, what went into going into this area?
Thank you so much, and then good day to your listeners. And so the 2022 Demographic and Health Survey, we captured information about women 15 to 49 years. These are women in their reproductive ages, and then men 15 to 59. But for comparison reasons, we cut off that of male as 15 to 49. We need to understand the fertility patterns of women, and again know how we are giving birth, what is affecting us, and how our lives in general are. So today, the release on the fertility results, marriage, and again, knowledge about family planning and fertility preferences.
Right, so let's now deal with the details as captured in a report. And I mean, when the matter of the fertility issue came up in the newsroom, there was a lot of discussions, back and forth. And the conclusion or the findings was that if you take the Savannah, the Northeast, and the other regions in the Northern region, all the way come down to the OT region, the fertility rate is very high as compared to, let's say, the Greater Accra region. What may be accounted for this? Did the research establish it?
Thank you so much. And so our mandate, we do not establish what accounts for high fertility in those areas. We go out there to solicit information and we produce it just as it has been given. But one of the other areas that we found during the survey was that apart from telling us that a woman may be in Northeast region within her reproductive life, if she follows the current trend of fertility patterns, she will produce 6 children or almost 7 children, as against somebody living in Greater Accra who will give birth to 2.9 children per her reproductive life. The other factors that might come to pass, but from the survey, one of the things that we established is that education has a role in the fertility, because we realized that those who have no education were very high in terms of about for almost 5 children, as compared to those who are highly educated, who are around secondary or higher, who had maybe will have 2.5. And so therefore, looking at some of these areas in terms of education, in terms of the wealth quintile or socioeconomic status, we realize that some of these may be possible, but that does not determine why fertility is so high in there. And so the survey did not establish the reasons, but we established the facts that this is the trend and the pattern.
So will you also say perhaps sex has become the main form of entertainment in some of these areas? That may be the motivation behind the high number of kids that are coming out from these regions?
It will not be wholly the truth or something that we can attribute to, but one of the things that we can mention or we can talk about is that a number of factors come to play. And so poor areas may not have amenity certain access, may not have maybe education that people will go to school to that high level, because when females are retained in school, then they delay their fertility, so they don't give birth at that early age. And so when you look at even from the 2021 population housing census, we realize that educational level in these areas we talk about is much lower than those in the southern region. And so possible, so if they don't have any source of livelihood and other things, maybe that would be possible, one of the things. And again, it might be culture, but we cannot pinpoint which exactly is driving this. But what we know is that education, wealth status are driving forces that also tell us how the fertility patterns prevail in certain areas. So
in the event that policymakers take these documents, read through, and then want to try and bring about some changes in these areas, what kind of recommendation would you give them in terms of, addressing some of these concerns that you raised?
Thank you so much. And so it's good that when you prepare your meal, somebody eats it. And therefore, when we change the information, we expect that the stakeholders, Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, or other stakeholders will also take it on board. For example, we know that when there is no education there, people will tend to marry a bit early, and then as is expected, when you marry, the next thing we are asking is that the number of children, when are you going to give birth?
Right.
And therefore targeted interventions. So we will not ask them, they know best what to be the targeted intervention. So since we have shown that Northeast is the highest, as compared to Greater Accra, that's 2.9, I don't think that they will put the same strategy in place for Greater Accra as they will put in place for, let's say, Northeast or Savannah, my adopted region. And so Ministry of Health will understand and look at it, since we have also shown that educational level, or those people with lower education tend to have higher fertility than those who have higher education. Then it depends on them, and they know much, the policymakers, they know what to do to be able to ensure that if our focus is to bring fertility down in these areas, then they will know what they must do in those areas. Because to be able to bring fertility down, it's not just telling people don't have children. Again, are we engaging people, younger people in school, so that as the longer they stay in school, the people are not entered into marriage early, and therefore they will delay their fertility. If people are gainfully employed and in other activities, going to work, the pressure, maybe don't have too much leisure, therefore you may not decide that maybe I wanted 4 children, but because of my work nature and then going up and down my childcare, I think I have no one supporting me, and therefore our limit is. And so I believe that the policy makers will be in the right position to know which policy they might put in place to be able to drive these ones down. But what we want them to understand is that it cannot be one size fits all. It must be targeted depending on the needs of the people in those areas that they deem fit.
And is that the reason why Greater Accra is at 2.9? Because people are focusing their attention on other things rather than having babies?
Partially, and no one can really firm it up. Most of our activities are going on in Accra. People go to work, the stress of life, running up and down, that does not mean that you delay your fertility. When we run this one down to other maybe district or whatever, maybe might review something else, but yet we have not done that analysis for district. So 2.9 for Greater Accra may not be the same for maybe Adan East or Adan West in Greater Accra as maybe the Accra metropolitan areas. And so the endowment is also part of it, the facilities is part of it, and then again, access to healthcare, closeness, and again, uptake of family planning, all these things, because I may want to have children, but if I'm not ready and I say I want to use family planning to delay it, it's a means by which I delay it. So it depends on what facilities are available to these people and whether they know of it and whether they are using it, and that will also play a role. So I think that the Ghana Health Service, Ministry of Health, and then the education and other units will be much better to be able to understand. For us, we have produced the figures.
Right, and then my final question before I let you go, another issue that came up is about the age bracket within which people, give birth. I mean, from the research finding, between 25 and 29 is still the preferred age bracket. But a significant issue that came up is about people who are giving birth beyond age 40. Is there a health concern here that they should be worried about?
Thank you so much. And so when you take the reproductive lifespan of an individual, for females, it's between 15 and then 49 years. Mm-hmm. When you give birth too early, it has implications for you. Your physiological makeup is not well developed, and therefore you're still a child. So you may not be able to carry full term and may have some complications. When you're getting too close to your end of your reproductive life too, yes, you are grown, the body system maybe might have changed. And so giving birth too early and too late is not too good for the individual. And so I think that the health people will best give us the medical juxtaposition to it, but then it's not too good for an individual to give birth to so close to your menopausal age, because there you may have had 3 children already or 4. The more you give birth to more children, you deplete your physiology, and therefore you might not be able to recoup. And again, that might result in other things. So that is why when people are ending their reproductive life, they seem to limit it. So that is why in Ghana, what we say is that we see that majority of them are giving birth around 25 to 29, right, followed by 30 to 34 years.
But those who are giving birth after age 40, what is accounted for this?
Well, the study did not pinpoint what really accounted for it. But one of the things from findings from the survey, we asked people whether you want another child. And some people said they want a child now. Some said they want it in the future, but they were not decided when. Some say they don't want at all. And some say that they think they cannot give birth again. But if you say you want one now, then maybe you prepare yourself to be able to be pregnant. But if you say you want to delay, or you are not ready, or you're waiting for a while, one of the questions that comes that, once you say you're not ready and you're still living with your spouse, what are you doing to prevent it? And therefore, if you are not ready and you're still living with your partner and you're not doing anything to prevent it, like family planning or using condom, other things, then when you have an affair with your partner, you will become pregnant. And so we cannot tell whether it was a mistake, whether they did not use a condom, or whether some people, they are 40, beyond 40 years, but maybe that is they've never given birth. And so that's the first child. So somebody will do everything to be able to own. So multiple reasons might account for it, but I think that it is the health personnel that will be able to drill it down. This will give them the information, and then they'll be able to drill it down to be able to pinpoint what exactly is causing people to be able to give birth at that part of their reproductive life.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Frimpong Angoa. Thank you very much for sharing the research findings with us here on The Pulse. Dr. Frimpong, Dr. Faustina Frimpong Angoa is a deputy government statistician, and this afternoon they released the demographic study on fertility and family planning in Ghana, covering the period 2022. Now, in the heart of Accra's Opera Square, Nicholas Nunu, a first-class graduate in accounting, demonstrated resilience and hope amidst the struggle for employment in Ghana. Despite a staggering 13.4% unemployment rate, Nicholas has found a unique path to survive, checking the blood pressure of traders in the market. His story is a testament to both challenges graduates endure and the unwavering spirit that propelled them forward in the pursuit of a dignified livelihood.
In a city where academic degrees don't always open doors, the story of a 36-year-old first-class graduate biting hard on the rope of unemployment opened my heart to embrace life in the best way possible. But before I tell you the story of Nicholas, ponder this. What would you do for work if your first-class degree could not earn you a white-collar job?
This market was my first place of contact. That was around 2013. I had only 2 cedis in my pocket and the machines were there. But to start was a challenge.
Nicholas is a 36-year-old husband and father of 1. He graduated top of his class from Methodist University with an impressive 37 GDP in accounting. But for 10 years now, his office has been the bustling market center and his clients traders in the markets. He's not a doctor, neither is he doing the work of a doctor.
This is what I've been doing for a living. I take blood pressure and then sugar level. I take 2 cedis when checking the blood pressure and then 6 cedis when checking the sugar level. And then this is what I've been doing to support myself as a man in this economic hardship. I've been doing this work for the past 10 years. I started in 2013. And by then, I have not pursued my university program. But it got to a time I realized that my energy was depleting and I cannot go on doing this kind of job. So I have to pursue a professional development. Hence, I embark on studying accounting at the Methodist University, Ghana. Now I've graduated and currently doing my chartered accounting program and currently doing level 2. And like I said, this is what I've been doing to support my education when I was at the university, and this is the same work I'm doing to support my professional program.
When opportunities are scarce, pride and ego take a backseat. Nicholas chose not to be defeated by unemployment, but to redefine his purpose. Nicholas first got his diploma in business studies from the Center for Business Development in 2013. Due to his inability to land a job, he picked up the sphygmomanometer, the instrument used to measure blood pressure. This work saw him through further education at the Methodist University for a degree in accounting. Nicholas is one of thousands of unemployed graduates in Ghana. Data according to the Ghana Statistical Service indicate that overall unemployment rate in Ghana is 13.4%. Youth unemployment rate 19.7%. This means 2 out of 10 persons of Ghana's labor force between the ages of 15 and 35 are unemployed. 25% of youth in Ghana are neither in employment, education, or training. Now, according to economic research from the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, only 10% of graduates gain employment within a year of graduation. Nicholas is one of thousands whom I wonder how they're surviving. According to the World Health Organization, the burden of hypertension is very high in Africa, where 2/3 of cases are found. One pivotal way to manage the risks associated with hypertension is regularly checking blood pressure and consulting with health professionals. This is where Nicholas comes in, and to these market women, he's a lifesaver.
Me checking a brain na say my test pressure ekosoro a brain na ti oba no be check mama and no kire me say e normal ana eko high.
This is something she does on a regular with Nicholas, and it helps them because they don't have the machines and the resources to constantly be going to the hospital.
So that be when me tia me ya mean to me who say ekosoro ana say ba form ti so oba no be check mama o kire me say mama ekosoro nti faduro me faduro pa na ekofom ti e mama ehun faso ne bi no so me checking a brain nyina na say eye normal e mama so me boto me yam.
So say dwemufo in the hospital.
They are grateful that they get to do this while here at work, because it's not everyone who has the means, time and resources to go to the hospital and be checking. As early as 9 a.m., Nicholas began his day, and today I had the chance to spend a couple of hours with him.
To my best of knowledge, there is no regulation that requires that one must get a license before acquiring a glucometer or a blood pressure monitoring machine. So there are people who, for instance, they may not have the resources to acquire these items. And yes, so they are hypertensive and then they are diabetic. So the rationale behind this is that if there are people out there who can't afford to buy these items or this equipment, why don't I buy them and then do it for a fee? So, because for me, I don't think there is any regulatory requirement for that.
So Sweetie Aboshi brought in that report. Now, before we go, football is most entertaining sport in Ghana and ignites the emotions of the Ghanaian people. Now, following the group stage exit of the senior national team, the Black Stars, they just ended AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire. A group of Ghanaian sports journalists are preparing to hit the streets tomorrow to demonstrate against the Ghana Football Association. They believe poor management by the GFA is responsible for the poor show by the Black Stars. With me in the studio is Veronica Kome, a sports journalist, to tell us more about the demonstration tomorrow. Veronica, you're welcome, and I've admired you for a long time. It's actually a pleasure to talk to you today.
It's an honor
from
to
your
be
days
here.
on you and Jan Pofwankra back in the days you used to do your sports on GTV.
You make me feel so old.
Great. It's great to have you here.
It's good to be here.
And last week you've been very busy.
Yes.
I've listened to you on CT, on GTV, making a point that we need to do something about
It's so
about the Black
important
Stars.
because there comes a time we are saying that this problem we have today is over 40 years. In my lifetime, we haven't won the Nations Cup. The last time we did was 43 years
1982
ago.
to be precise.
To be precise. So a lot of us have been hoping that we get opportunity to lift it, especially because we claim that we are a football nation. I think the happenings around the country suggest that we are not a football nation. The truth is that the so-called big boys of African football have been found out, and there is no hiding place. And that is where we draw our inspiration. If you check the countries that are doing well, what separates them from those that are not doing well is a policy. That is one thing we lack in the country at the moment. When we took the 3 or 4 Nations Cup in the past, a lot of, or the chunk of it came under Kwame Nkrumah's leadership. He had a plan, he had a policy, he was executing it perfectly. We might not have taken any trophy around the time Ben Kofi was in charge, but he had a 5-year development plan that made a few changes. Since we entered the democratic period where Nyantechi began and we vote for people, everyone will come in with their manifesto and exactly what to achieve. And we are beginning to see that the decline is sharp. And it's only because people have their own interest. The kind of interest you see at the FA is not totally to develop our game. And we are saying that as a nation, it's a good time to have a policy. Because when governments come into power, they all have different plans. But as a nation, if we can congregate and say that this is exactly what we want to do the next 5, 10 years, or a lifetime as long as we are here, it will make a huge difference.
But again, the role of the individuals leading our football is also very important.
It is. You know, when after under number 12, Anansa's number 12 expose, Nyantechi gave way, there was normalization committee, and then we instituted a new group led by the current president. And a lot of people say we had a unique opportunity to make changes. 5 years on, we are realizing that we did not tackle all the root causes of the rot we see in our game. The rot that ensures that you will see a very terrible pitch for teams playing on. But when people go to competitions with the Black Stars, they reward themselves with $100,000 each just by being members of the management committee.
Executive committee.
Yes, management committee of the Black Stars. And then again, when the league is over, the winner is taking home $30,000. Your winner for a Premier League. So there is a systematic problem with our football. We can decide that all is well, but we'll be exposed, just like the Black Stars does at the Nation Cup. We have played 10 games or so at the Nations Cup, last 3 competitions, and we are averaging just a win.
So the blame is about what? About planning
we don't
or
have the
leadership?
policy. If we had a good policy, it will make a lot of difference. I mean, in terms of leadership, we could have a conversation as to how the current leadership is performing. But a policy will cure a lot of those.
There are those who have the view that, I mean, those in leadership perhaps are not so serious about the kind of national team that they want to give us. I mean, we went to the AFCON. Look at how long it took for the GFA,
9 days,
the managers of the team, to apologize to Ghanaians for that abysmal performance that they gave us. And then the government appears to say, let the status quo remain. Let's move on with our lives.
Because we have had a system where we have managed to let the football people, the few, tell us that you cannot have an interference. I'm asking a few questions. Even when the Zurich government thought there were problems with FIFA, they entered.
Of course.
There were times that a lot of people were arrested in FIFA.
And you had the FBI neck deep in another country.
And what was it that transparency could not be raised? Government or FIFA understands that there is an element of support that African federations receive from government. So there has to be a collaboration.
Right.
So that is why we are targeting authority from above. It's leadership. As long as the president understands that the football ecosystem is down and the football economy can be great, dependent on how we approach it, then we are able to fix it.
So what is happening tomorrow? Where are you starting the walk, and who are you demanding answers from?
Tomorrow we are at the Obra Sports. That is where we are starting. Circle Dubai is what they call it these days. We are expecting a lot of people, a lot of Ghanaians to converge there. Then we begin our march. That should take us through some principal streets of Accra. We'll end up at some point at the Ghana Football Association, in Parliament, and also at the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Then finally, we would finish everything at the Independence Square, where government representative will be meeting us to pick up a petition.
And then after tomorrow, what next?
A lot of things will come up. For us, this is just the first of many to come.
All right. Thank you very much, Veronica.
Pleasure.
All of us will be there.
It's important.
To demonstrate, of course. So tomorrow, all of us will meet at the Obra Sports. It's Valentine's Day. Let's show our love to football management in this country by going on the streets and demonstrate against what has come to be established as a poor showing that we continue to be given by the managers and the players and everybody involved with football in this country. But that's it for today's edition of The Pulse. My name is Elton Brobe. See you tomorrow for the midweek edition. Enjoy your evening.